Hello to all our viewers and welcome back to TRBusiness's Adapt and Survive Skype video interview series produced in response to the COVID-19 epidemic. I would like to introduce all our viewers to Jonathan Lee. He's the head of travel retail and acquisitions at Ourshop for this episode. Jonathan, great to have you join Adapt and Survive. First and foremost, are you fit? Are you well? Are you healthy? And what's the situation on the ground in Malaysia at the moment?
Well, first of all, thanks, Luke, for having us. I think it's been really interesting times for all of us. I'm doing well. I think a lot of us are just restless because in Malaysia, we're going through this whole MCO or movement control order, which is, basically a partial lockdown. Essentially only essential services are allowed to operate, whether it's your supermarkets. Restaurants are only allowed to do takeaways, no outdoor activities whatsoever. And you're basically only allowed to travel within 10 kilometers of where you live. So, we are 28 days in, 14 more to go. As for now, we've basically extended the movement control for, twice already. But other than that, I think, keeping active and at home, of course, I think all of us have to adjust in terms of how we work. So mainly con calls, and yeah, that's it for things here right now.
Mm. And Jonathan, what's the situation with regards to Ourshop's employees? Many people are working from home across the world or being furloughed. I noticed this morning that AirAsia have announced that it's keeping on its staff, albeit on reduced pay. Can you just give us a bit of a flavour of how the team is adapting and also what you make of this morning's news?
Well, I think it's, it is pretty unfortunate. I think just not for AirAsia, but I think across the board for every, airline, every in TR, I think that goes across the board. But I think, we have very capable leaders, and we've got a very capable team. I think the team has never been as tight knitted as what it is right now. So it's all hands at deck, and I think the whole goal is to, of course, keep people in jobs. But then I think with our things that we probably will cover later today also is that I think there's a lot that we can do even with this current situation and so forth.
And let's talk about a little bit about how Ourshop are responding, Jonathan, in this situation we find ourselves in. Obviously, your typical fulfillment options are kind of, I guess, on the back burner at the moment, for want of a better word. Order for collection in flight or collection from ground stores, maybe even home delivery. So talk to us a little bit about any initiatives or campaigns and just generally how you're responding to the situation.
Well, I think you're right. I think all our planes currently are, majority of our planes are, what we call in hibernation. And if not, all airports, retail currently are closed. So therefore, a traditional business of, where someone, is buying something online and they collect it in store, that's something that's, not an option currently. However, I think as an organization, change is something that we are, we often say is constant in our company, and I think one of the quick response that we had was first to pivot quite quickly. I think just within a couple of days, of the announcement of MCO, we were basically able to deploy home delivery as an option for our retailers. Now, of course, in terms of deployment, we currently have this whole campaign that's running, which is called SOS or Save Our Shops. The goal is to basically, leveraging on our strength, as an airline, with the base that we have, and connecting, retailers to our, our passengers or our customers in that sense, right? So, that's something that we are currently doing. We not only have basically, enabled traditional retailers to venture into e-commerce, but also, we've also partnered with. I think we've also taken the extra step of even leveraging on our strength through our logistic arm, under AirAsia called Teleport, and basically also enable, them to do fulfillment to the customer. So basically, we manage from not just the portal, but also from an end-to-end service, mainly, picking up products from their, designated warehouses to fulfilling that, to the customer's doorstep and so forth.
And just, Jonathan, if you can elaborate a little bit on the mechanics of how Save Our Shops works. I mean, there'll be some of our viewers who won't have been aware of the announcement made last week by your brilliant Group CEO, Tony Fernandez, to try and address the problem. So just logistically, just talk us through how the platform is working, what travel retail and the retailers can benefit, how they can benefit, and also critically, the sort of feedback and response that you've had so far from the campaign.
Well, first of all, I think the campaign is pretty apt in that sense, because I think a lot of businesses are struggling at this time, right? And I think as I mentioned earlier, it was basically the goal was simple, is we knew many businesses were going to be impacted. We simply wanted to create a platform or an avenue where business could still sell, right? Again, leveraging our strength in the form of our data, our unique customer base. We simply connect businesses to our customer base. In AirAsia, annually carries approximately about 90 million passengers last year, and that was just transacted traffic, right? And I mean, the response has been tremendous. I think just over a week, we have about close to about 500 retailers already joined us on board. Now, of course, this makes up both TR and non-TR businesses. Of course, a big contributing factor to that overwhelming response, has basically been how simple the retailer can come on board. Basically, it's a very, basically a 4-step, process. First they just have to register online, and then they go through a very quick verification process through the team here. Then the retailers are then equipped with a seller center where they can start uploading products. We equip them with video guides in terms of how do they upload products and so forth. And then, when they're ready, basically, they would just send us a note, and then, we basically activate that, with a click of a button, and they go live. It's just that simple. Currently, the focus has mainly been for Malaysian retailers at this point. I think that the challenge is because of, the restrictive control of movements at this time. We're not able to, do much export or incoming in terms of shipments and so forth. So the focus has always been just Malaysia and Peninsular Malaysia specifically. But I think once this lockdown is uplifted, I think there is definitely added opportunities across the board.
Oh, that's a very, very, very interesting initiative, and no doubt one that I'm sure a lot of travel retailers will be very, very interested in pursuing after and when all of this blows over, as it were. Jonathan, I'd like to turn now to something a little different. We've touched on Save Our Shops, but I wanted to ask you, obviously, at this point in time, it's all about trying to get these campaigns and initiatives off the ground, and with the current situation with staff across the world, for many retailers, this can often prove challenging in executing. Obviously, AirAsia is in a fortunate position, as we touched on earlier. Just taking you back to the end of last year, now we know that AirAsia incorporated, also the AirAsian in-flight buying operations team were incorporated into a new reporting structure under Ourshop. We reported that, as I say, in around November. So just talk to us a little bit about, I guess, some of the synergies and advantages of having that team brought on board. Obviously, we imagine things hit a bit of a snag, I guess, around January when all of this began in earnest. But I guess the question is, has it proven advantageous to have a larger team working on these campaigns? Save Our Shops, are they working on these campaigns?
Well, I think, to simply put, I think Ourshop and generally AirAsia as a whole has got an amazing work culture. In seasons like this, I think it's quite natural for all of us to just roll up our sleeves up and just basically contribute to what we can. I think what helps also is that we've got amazing leaders, like Tony and so forth, who lead by example. I mean, you often describe leaders like this as barefoot leadership, right? Where leaders who walk in the sand and leave footprints for people to follow. And within days of MCO, we or this whole lockdown, We already had internal volunteers to assist with customer service, to merchant management, to merchant onboarding. Imagine this as a group. We have pilots and cabin crew who are pitching in to support Teleport, our logistic arm, to do door-to-door deliveries to our customers. We have had even our various CEOs, which have since gathered quite a coverage actually within our local mainstream media on pitching on to do deliveries to our customers also. So you get a culture like that where our leaders are willing to roll their sleeves up to work. I think it's a very natural progression for us to just roll our sleeves, do what we need to do. There is a lot of opportunity even in this time. Of course, things need to be done differently, but the work is still cut out for us in that sense.
Mm-hmm. It's good to hear. And Jonathan, obviously the short-term future is very uncertain at the moment. If I can ask, what are Ourshop's immediate priorities in the coming months? And crucially, do you see any flickers of potential recovery in air traffic, particularly in Asia, Southeast Asia? I know China, in recent weeks, we've seen the beginnings of something in the domestic markets. Can you just talk to us a little bit, I guess, about the vision for the next 2-3 months?
I guess the key word for that is, of course, rebound, right? I think, like you said, China, there are, glimpses of light in that sense where you see China picking up already. We remain optimistic with change for the better. Now, I think the time for that change is certainly something that we do not have control of, but I think what we do have control of is what we can do now, right? And with initiatives like home delivery, such as campaigns like SOS or Save Our Shops, is something that we can do immediately and something that we are taking advantage of and doing. If you imagine that if no one can actually go out of their homes and so forth, online traffic generally spikes across the board. I mean, this goes beyond our shop, but from any e-commerce place out there, if you ask them, you would see traffic definitely spiking. Even with the likes of Netflix for that case, right? You see them having to throttle down their video quality and so forth. That speaks a lot about online traffic, right? But to also take advantage of this current I would describe it as a hibernation with retailers and also brands is to grow their product representation, because traditionally on a day-to-day everyone's just too busy and all of us are looking at the next campaign, but now that we are somewhat grounded in that sense, we could actually spend a bit more time in terms of looking at what their product mix are, how could we improve that mix to be better, in terms of having a clear digital strategy in time for when the next wave comes, our surfboards would be ready to ride that wave, right? Yeah. So it's doing what we can do now in terms of what we have in control of, and then of course getting ready for when all this ends, we can get straight into it. In fact, do better than what we used to do in that sense. So there's a lot that we can do right now. I think a lot of negative media is going out in terms of cases increasing and so forth, but I think there's still a lot to be thankful for and grateful for. And there's a lot that we can also take advantage of and act on at this time.
So very apt words to finish on, John, and I'm sure all our travel retail viewers will appreciate that, trying to find some opportunity and resilience, and also crucially some opportunity to sort of diversify and grow the businesses if that's possible at a time of adversity. So great words of encouragement, and thank you, John, for joining us and sharing those thoughts.
Well, thanks for having us. It's always good to speak to you guys.
Thanks, John. Thanks, and all my best to the team, the Ourshop team, Lalitha, and all your colleagues in Malaysia.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Bye-bye.